Man, I never thought I'd be one of those guys sharing his life story on Reddit. But here I am. I've been married to Alice for 6 years now. And I guess in the back of my mind, I always knew things weren't going to be perfect forever. But I didn't think it would get this bad. The last 2 years have been hell, if I'm honest. And I'll tell you right now, trust was the first thing to go. It's funny because at the start, everything seemed normal. Yeah, we had our ups and downs, but who doesn't? We even talked about having kids one day, buying a house, the whole settle-down package. But that was before Alice's mom decided to remarry. That's when Olivia walked back into our lives. Let me give you some background. A few years ago, Alice's mom got married again to some guy, and with him came Olivia, the new stepsister. Now, Olivia isn't just some random woman in our lives. She and Alice actually went to high school together. And let me tell you, they hated each other back then. Alice would go on and on about how Olivia was this manipulative, sneaky little bitch who was always competing with her. Apparently, Olivia was the type who would smile to your face, but do everything in her power to undermine you behind your back. Alice said it was always a competition, grades, boys, friends, whatever. And honestly, I always thought it was just high school drama. Teenage girls can be brutal to each other. I didn't think much of it when we first started seeing Olivia around. She came by a lot, mostly to visit her mom. But of course, Alice couldn't stand it. Every time Olivia showed up, Alice would get all weird and defensive. At first, I didn't see the problem. Olivia seemed all right to me. She was friendly, a little too straightforward maybe, but nothing outrageous. I even got along with her, which turned out to be the real problem. Yeah, Olivia flirted with me a bit, I'll admit that. It wasn't anything crazy, just little comments here and there, maybe a playful smile or two. She was attractive, I'm not gonna lie about that, but I never took it seriously. It was just harmless banter, But Alice? She blew it way out of proportion. It was like every little thing Olivia did or said was some kind of personal attack on her. And as time went on, that jealousy turned into a full-blown obsession. I'd catch Alice glaring at me if I so much as looked in Olivia's direction. And the fights were constant. She would accuse me of paying too much attention to Olivia or acting too friendly with her. Every single time Olivia came around, Alice and I would argue after she left. It didn't help that Olivia didn't exactly hold back when it came to pushing Alice's buttons. She knew exactly how to get under her skin, and sometimes I think she did it on purpose. I remember one time, Alice got so pissed after Olivia came over for dinner that she smashed a glass right in front of me. She was yelling about how I was always staring at her, and how I clearly thought Olivia was more attractive than she was. I tried to calm her down, but it was useless. It always came back to Olivia, no matter what. I should have seen the signs earlier. Alice had always been competitive with Olivia, even before all of this. She used to tell me stories about how she'd try to embarrass Olivia back in school, making her look stupid in front of their friends. I guess that rivalry never really went away. It just got worse. It got to the point where I dreaded Olivia coming over. I knew what it would lead to, more accusations, more fights. Alice couldn't let it go, and to be honest, I was starting to get tired of it. I'd catch myself avoiding talking to Olivia altogether when she was around, just so Alice wouldn't lose her shit. But of course, even that didn't work. Alice would accuse me of acting weird or being distant when Olivia was around, like I had something to hide. There was no winning. Looking back now, I can see how messed up the whole situation was. Alice's jealousy wasn't just about Olivia. It was about control. She wanted to be the one in charge, the one who had my full attention all the time, and the fact that Olivia was around messed with her head. She saw Olivia as a threat, and I was caught in the middle of their twisted sibling rivalry. What really sucked was that Alice wasn't just jealous. She was obsessed with proving she was better than Olivia. It was like she needed to constantly remind me, or maybe herself, that she was the one who won. She was the one who got the guy, not Olivia. But instead of focusing on our relationship, she focused all her energy on tearing Olivia down. Things only got worse when Olivia started visiting more frequently. Alice accused me of flirting with her, even though I was doing everything I could to avoid any interaction. The more Alice pushed, the more distant we became, and that's when I realized something important. Our marriage wasn't about love or trust anymore. It was about who could win. Every time Olivia showed up, I could see the cracks in our marriage widening. Alice would explode over the smallest things. If I smiled at Olivia, if I talked to her too long, if I even looked in her direction. It was like walking on eggshells. I couldn't say or do anything without Alice assuming the worst. Eventually, I stopped trying to defend myself. What was the point? Alice had already made up her mind. She didn't trust me, and no matter what I did, I couldn't change that. The sad part is I hadn't even done anything. Sure, I got along with Olivia, but I was never interested in her like that. But in Alice's head, I was guilty from the start. I guess you could say that was the beginning of the end for us. Those fights about Olivia, the constant accusations, the jealousy, it was slowly eating away at our marriage. And as much as I wanted to fix things, I knew deep down that Alice didn't want to fix them. She just wanted to be right. So, things didn't magically get better after all those fights about Olivia. If anything, they got worse. Alice, in her never-ending quest to prove some kind of point, started playing these ridiculous, childish games. I mean, at this point, I wasn't even sure what she was trying to accomplish, but whatever it was, it felt like I was just being dragged along for the ride. It started small, like most things do. One day, I came home from work, and there were these flowers on the kitchen counter, roses if I remember correctly. Alice was in the other room, and I casually asked her, "What's with the flowers?" She came out, all smug, with this fake little smile plastered on her face. "Oh, just something from someone who appreciates me," she said, her voice dripping with that passive-aggressive tone I'd gotten way too used to. I didn't even flinch. I mean, come on. After everything we'd been through, I knew exactly what she was trying to do. She wanted me to get jealous, to think some guy was after her, and that I was supposed to feel threatened. But all I felt was tired. Tired of the games, the manipulation, the constant need to one-up me or Olivia or whoever the hell she was competing with in her head. So I didn't bite. I just shrugged and said, "That's nice," and went about my day like it didn't matter. Because in the grand scheme of things, it really didn't. But Alice wasn't the type to let things go. No, when she realized I wasn't going to fall for her little trick, she took it up a notch. She started dropping these random comments about a new man in her life, like I was supposed to believe she was actually seeing someone. She'd leave little notes around the house, supposedly from this mystery admirer, or mention how someone at work had been paying her a lot of attention. It was pathetic, honestly. I could see right through it. I mean, who leaves anonymous notes in their own house for their husband to find? It was like she was living in some high school drama, and I was supposed to play along. But I didn't. I refused to give her the satisfaction. Every time she'd drop one of these hints, I'd just smile and nod like it didn't bother me at all. Because, truthfully, it didn't. I knew she wasn't seeing anyone. This wasn't about her having an affair. It was about her trying to mess with my head. She wanted to make me jealous, to get a rise out of me, to make me fight for her attention or whatever twisted game she was playing. But I wasn't going to fall into that trap. Of course, Alice wasn't the type to give up easily. When the flowers and notes didn't work, she went for the nuclear option. One day, out of nowhere, I get a text from her. It's a picture of her with some guy, Brent, one of her coworkers. They're kissing, and the caption just says, "Thought you should know." Now, you'd think I'd lose my shit over something like that. I mean, if your wife sends you a picture of herself kissing another guy, the normal reaction would be to freak out, right? But when I saw that picture, all I felt was numb. I didn't even know who Brent was, but I could tell from the way they were posing that it wasn't real. The kiss looked staged, awkward, like they were doing it for a camera, not because they actually wanted to. I sat there, staring at my phone, and the only thing running through my head was, how the hell did we get here? This was my wife, the woman I'd married, and here she was playing these ridiculous games to try and provoke me. It wasn't even about love anymore. It was about power, control, and her need to feel like she had the upper hand. But I wasn't going to give her that. I didn't react. I didn't text back. I just put my phone down and went for a walk trying to clear my head. I knew confronting Brent was pointless. He was probably just a pawn in Alice's twisted little game, and if I lashed out, it would only make me look like the bad guy. No, the problem wasn't Brent. It was Alice. She was the one orchestrating all of this, and I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do about it. As I walked, I thought back to all the times I'd tried to save our marriage. We'd been to counseling, we'd had those long, painful conversations about working on things, but it never mattered. Alice wasn't interested in fixing anything. She just wanted to keep the cycle going. Fight, make up, fight again. Always keeping me on edge. Always making me feel like I was the problem. And I'll admit, for a while, I thought I was the problem. I thought maybe if I tried harder, if I paid more attention, if I gave her what she needed, things would get better. But they didn't. Because it was never about me. It was always about her. There were so many times in our marriage when Alice had used these same tactics to manipulate me. She'd play the jealousy card, accuse me of not caring enough, and twist things around to make me feel like the guilty one. There was this one time, I'll never forget it, when we were fighting about something stupid, probably Olivia, and she just started crying. She sobbed about how I didn't love her anymore, how I wasn't the man she'd married, how everything was my fault. And like a fool, I believed her. I spent the rest of that night apologizing, trying to fix things when really she was just playing me. Looking back, I can see it now. I can see all the time she used my own emotions against me, making me feel guilty for things that weren't even my fault. And this whole secret admirer thing, this kiss with Brent, it was just another one of her twisted schemes, designed to make me feel like shit. But I wasn't going to let her win this time. I wasn't going to fall for her games. Not anymore. When I got home, I didn't say a word about the picture. I didn't ask her about Brent. I just acted like nothing had happened. I could tell it was driving her crazy, waiting for me to blow up, to confront her, to scream and yell. But I didn't give her that satisfaction. I wasn't playing her game anymore. Alice tried to provoke me a few more times after that. She'd mention Brent casually in conversation, drop little hints about their dates, but I just shrugged it off. I knew the truth. I knew that whatever was going on between them wasn't real. It was just her last-ditch effort to get under my skin, to make me feel like I was losing her. But in reality, I'd already lost her. Hell, maybe I never really had her to begin with. After that photo of Alice kissing Brent, I was ready to explode. You know, I always thought I had a pretty decent handle on my temper. But this was something else. I was pissed, sure, but it wasn't just anger. It was the betrayal, the manipulation, the sheer audacity of Alice pulling a stunt like that. She had turned what was already a sinking ship of a marriage into something way worse, some sick game. I wanted to scream at her, ask her why the hell she thought this was okay. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wouldn't change a damn thing. Confronting Brent? That would have been pointless. It didn't take a genius to figure out he had no idea what he was stepping into. I didn't know the guy personally, but from what I'd heard, he was pretty harmless, a typical dude trying to get by. If anything, Brent was just another pawn in Alice's game. The real issue wasn't him. It was her. And by then, I knew better than to play in her hands. So, instead of going off the rails, I did something that surprised even me. I reached out to Olivia. Yeah, I know. Of all people, Olivia. But at the time, I was desperate, and I needed someone to talk to who wasn't going to give me some marriage takes work bullshit. Olivia was the only one who knew Alice for who she really was. Manipulative, controlling, and downright cruel when she wanted to be. I figured if anyone would understand what I was going through, it'd be her. I gave her a call. No formalities, no small talk. I just dove right into it. Olivia, I need to talk. Alice pulled some serious shit this time. It didn't take long for her to respond. Come over. I'm free. Within 20 minutes, I was sitting on her couch, my hands shaking with frustration as I laid it all out. The flowers, the stupid fake notes, the picture of her kissing Brent, everything. And you know what? She didn't even look surprised. If anything, she seemed amused. Olivia leaned back in her chair, almost smiling. I can't say I'm shocked. Alice has always been like this. She's just better at hiding it from most people. The way she said it was almost eerie, like she had been expecting this all along. I was waiting for her to offer some sympathy, some understanding, but instead, she threw me a curveball that hit me like a ton of bricks. You should sleep with me, she said, completely unfazed. At first, I thought she was joking. I even laughed a little, thinking she was trying to lighten the mood. But when I looked at her face, calm, dead serious, I realized she meant it. Wait, what? I said, not entirely sure if I'd heard her right. She smiled like this was the most logical thing in the world. You heard me. If Alice wants to play these games, why not give her a taste of her own medicine? She cheats on you with Brent, you sleep with me. Fair's fair, don't you think? I was stunned. I mean, sure, Olivia had always been a little flirty, but this This was a whole new level. My mind was spinning. I couldn't believe what she was suggesting. But at the same time, there was this dark part of me, this angry, vengeful part that wanted to take her up on the offer. It would have been so easy. Too easy, really. But I couldn't do it. No, I said, shaking my head. I can't. That's not who I am. Olivia didn't even flinch. She just shrugged, as if to say, suit yourself. But there was this look in her eyes, a look that told me she wasn't surprised by my refusal. She knew I wouldn't go for it. Hell, maybe that's why she suggested it in the first place, just to see how far I was willing to go. But as we kept talking, it became pretty clear that Olivia wasn't just some innocent bystander in all of this. She had her own motives, her own reasons for wanting to see Alice suffer. She'd been holding on to a grudge for years, since high school, really, and she was more than happy to watch Alice's life fall apart. She wasn't just the stepsister. She was a woman with her own agenda. You know, Olivia said, her voice almost playful. Alice has always been like this. Even back in school, she did everything she could to make my life hell. Spreading rumors, embarrassing me in front of people, making sure I was always in her shadow. She's always needed to be on top, always needed to feel like she's winning. It's pathetic, really. I nodded. I knew Alice had her issues with Olivia, but hearing it from her side of things was eye-opening. Olivia had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the chance to finally strike back. And I had just handed her the perfect opportunity. I won't lie, Olivia continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I've always been a little attracted to you, Jason. And the idea of getting back at Alice? It doesn't sound too bad, does it? I didn't know what to say. I mean, here was Olivia, this woman who had been in my life for years, suddenly offering herself to me like some sort of revenge trophy. But I couldn't do it. I wasn't that guy. No matter how much I hated Alice for what she'd done, sleeping with Olivia would have been a line I couldn't come back from. I appreciate you being straight with me, I said after a long pause. But it's not the answer. Olivia looked at me for a long moment, her eyes searching mine for something. Maybe weakness, maybe desperation. But when she realized I wasn't going to budge, she just sighed and leaned back. Suit yourself, she said again, but this time, there was a hint of disappointment in her voice. I knew then that Olivia wasn't just offering me revenge. She was offering herself a chance to settle old scores with Alice. This wasn't about me. It was about her, and I wasn't about to be used as a weapon in their twisted sibling rivalry. But still, that conversation stuck with me. The way Olivia had spoken about Alice, the way she had casually suggested I betray my wife the same way she'd betrayed me, it made me realize just how far gone this whole situation was. This wasn't just a marital spat. This was something much darker, something rooted in years of resentment and anger. When I left Olivia's place that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Maybe it was the way she'd looked at me, or maybe it was the realization that my marriage wasn't just broken. It was beyond repair. Whatever it was, I knew that things would never be the same again. I had always prided myself on being the bigger person, on holding on to my principles even when everything around me was falling apart. But now I was starting to wonder if those principles were worth anything when I was surrounded by people who didn't give a damn about them. As I walked home that night, I couldn't help but think about what Olivia had said. Was revenge really the answer? Would sleeping with her make me feel better? Or would it just make everything worse? Either way, one thing was clear. Alice had crossed a line, and there was no going back. And while I didn't take Olivia up on her offer, the seed of revenge had already been planted. Whether I liked it or not, it was only a matter of time before it grew. When I got home after my conversation with Olivia, I knew I had to confront Alice. I couldn't avoid it anymore. I needed to know if she even realized what she had done, or if she was too far gone to care. The tension in the house was thick, almost suffocating, and there she was, lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had changed. It was like she didn't even notice I had walked in. We need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I wasn't sure how I was going to start this conversation, but I knew it couldn't wait. Alice didn't even bother to look up. What now, Jason? I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me? What you've done to us? Finally, she looked up, but her face was cold, unfeeling. Hurt you? You're the one who's ruined everything. You're the reason my life is miserable." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I stood there, stunned, trying to make sense of what she'd just said. "Wait, what? You seriously think this is my fault?" She rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Of course it's your fault, Jason. You forced me into this marriage, trapped me in this boring, pathetic life. Do you really think I wanted this?" I could feel the anger rising in me, but I tried to stay calm. "We built this life together, Alice. I thought we were happy. What happened to you? What happened to me? I woke up, that's what happened. I realized I was wasting my time with you, stuck in this dead-end marriage, and I deserve more," she shot back, not a hint of remorse in her voice. I stared at her, barely able to believe what I was hearing. This wasn't the Alice I'd fallen in love with, the woman I married. That woman was gone, replaced by someone cold, someone who didn't care about anything but herself. "So what? You think sending me those pictures with Brent was supposed to fix things? You think hurting me is going to solve anything?" She just shrugged, as if it didn't matter. "I didn't force you to stay, Jason. You're the one who chose to stick around. You're the one too scared to leave." I couldn't believe it. She wasn't just refusing to take responsibility. She was rewriting history. All the fights, all the manipulation. It was like she had convinced herself that I was the problem all along. I couldn't stand it anymore. "You really don't care, do you?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "You don't care about me, about us, about anything we built." Alice didn't even blink. "I stopped caring a long time ago, Jason. You're just the last one to figure it out." Her words felt like a final nail in the coffin. All the hope I had been holding on to, the hope that maybe, somehow, we could fix this vanished. It was over. She didn't care, and she never would. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said quietly. "This isn't the woman I married." She laughed bitterly. "The woman you married? That woman's gone, Jason. She disappeared a long time ago. You're just too blind to have noticed." I tried to take a deep breath, but it felt like I was drowning. Every word she said was another blow, another reminder that the life we'd built was crumbling around us, and there was nothing left to save. "What happened to us?" I asked, almost to myself. I could barely remember the last time things had felt normal between us, the last time we'd been happy. My mind flashed back to our honeymoon, the way we'd laughed and dreamed about our future together. Those memories felt like a lifetime ago, like they belonged to someone else. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. Then, out of nowhere, she brought up Olivia. "You know, I always knew you were more interested in her than me," Alice said, her tone almost casual, like it was an obvious fact. "Even back at the beginning, you gave her more attention than you ever gave me. Don't think I didn't notice." I was floored. "Wait, Olivia? You think this is about Olivia?" She sneered. "Of course it is. You've always given her more attention than me. That's why I started seeing Brent. Because you were never really here, Jason. You were always halfway out the door, chasing after her." I shook my head in disbelief. "You seriously think that's why I haven't been happy? Because of Olivia?" "Alice, this has nothing to do with her. It's about us. You've been playing games, pushing me away for months, and now you want to blame someone else?" "Blame someone else?" she scoffed. "You've always blamed me. I'm not taking the fall for your failures anymore." It was then that I knew, really knew, that this marriage was done. There was no saving it, no fixing it. Alice was gone. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, wasn't coming back. I looked at her, trying to find any trace of the person I had once shared a life with. But she wasn't there. All I saw was a stranger, a cold, bitter woman who couldn't care less about the damage she'd caused. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I'm done." She barely looked up from her phone. "Good. So am I." That was it. No emotion, no regret. Just cold indifference. I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. Not just for the marriage, but for the life we were supposed to have, the person I thought Alice was. But I realized maybe that person had never really existed. Without another word, I went upstairs and started packing a bag. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But deep down, I knew there was no turning back. This was the end. And as I walked out the door, I didn't look back. After my conversation with Alice, I was beyond frustrated. It wasn't just anger at her refusal to apologize or take any responsibility. It was everything. The years of manipulation, the constant jealousy, the blame she placed on me for our broken marriage. It had all piled up, and now I had nothing left. No marriage. No answers. Just a mess of emotions I couldn't seem to shake. And that's when my mind wandered back to Olivia. I knew I shouldn't go there. I knew it was the wrong thing to do, the kind of decision you regret as soon as you make it. But at that moment, I didn't care. I wanted revenge. I wanted to hurt Alice the way she had hurt me, to show her that I wasn't some pushover who would just let her walk all over me. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went back to Olivia. I drove to her place late that night. My heart was pounding, my mind racing with a mix of anger, confusion, and something darker. Olivia opened the door, surprised to see me, but she didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. The look on my face must have said it all. "Jason," she said, her voice low and curious. "What are you doing here?" I didn't bother with pleasantries. I stepped inside, and the words spilled out before I could stop them. "You were right. About what you said. I want to do it. I want to sleep with you." Her eyebrows shot up in surprise. But then a slow, satisfied smile spread across her face. She knew exactly what this meant. For her, this was a victory over Alice, over the years of rivalry and bitterness between them. And now, here I was, ready to give her exactly what she wanted. "You sure about this?" she asked, though there was a glint in her eye that told me she wasn't worried about my answer. I nodded, the weight of everything pushing me forward. "Yeah, I'm sure." The next few moments were a blur. I remember the way Olivia looked at me, the way she kissed me with a hunger that felt more like possession than passion. It wasn't about love, not even about lust. It was about revenge. For both of us. She wanted to stick it to Alice just as much as I did, and we both knew this would cut deep. The sex was mechanical. There was no real connection, no intimacy. It was an act, purely physical, and yet filled with the weight of everything that had brought us to this moment. I can't even say it felt good. It just felt like something I had to do. Like I had to prove to myself that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't going to let Alice's betrayal be the last word in our marriage. When it was over, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling a strange mix of relief and disgust. Relief because I had taken back some control over my life, over the situation. Disgust because I knew, deep down, that this wasn't me. This wasn't who I wanted to be, but it was too late to turn back now. Olivia, on the other hand, seemed completely satisfied. She lay beside me, her fingers trailing up and down my chest, a smug smile on her face. I could feel the shift in her attitude, like this wasn't just a one-time thing for her. She thought this was the start of something. "You know," she said after a while, "I could be a much better wife to you than Alice ever was." I turned my head to look at her, surprised by the comment. "What?" She smiled again, that same self-satisfied smirk. "I'm serious. Alice never appreciated you. She never really cared about you, not like I do. You deserve someone better, Jason. Someone who actually sees you." I didn't know what to say. The words hung in the air, making me feel uncomfortable. This wasn't what I had signed up for. I came here for revenge, not to start a new relationship with my wife's stepsister. But Olivia clearly had other ideas. "You and I, we could be good together," she continued, her voice soft and coaxing. "We're both free now. We both want the same thing." I shook my head, sitting up and pulling away from her. "Olivia, this isn't what I want." She looked confused, like she hadn't expected that response. "What do you mean?" I don't know what I thought." I interrupted, running a hand through my hair, trying to clear my head. All of this, it's just a mess. I'm not looking for a new relationship. I don't even know what I'm doing right now." Olivia's face fell, but she quickly recovered, sitting up beside me. "Jason, I get it. I do. But you can't tell me that you don't feel better after this. You got back at Alice. You took control. Isn't that what you wanted?" I didn't have an answer. Part of me did feel better. I felt like I had taken some kind of revenge on Alice, like I had shown her that she wasn't the only one who could break the rules. But another part of me felt hollow, like I had crossed a line that I couldn't uncross. I don't know. I admitted quietly. I don't know. Olivia reached out and touched my arm, her voice softening. Jason, it's okay. You don't have to figure it all out right now. But you deserve to be happy. You deserve more than what Alice gave you. I nodded, but I wasn't really listening. My mind was elsewhere, trying to process everything that had happened. I stood up, pulling my clothes back on, feeling the weight of what I'd just done settling over me like a heavy blanket. I should go, I muttered. Olivia watched me, a mix of disappointment and understanding in her eyes. If you need anything, you know where to find me. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just walked out the door, my mind spinning. As I drove home, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. But there was also something else, something darker, a sense of guilt, maybe even regret that gnawed at the edges of my mind. Was this really what I wanted? Was revenge enough to fill the emptiness that Alice had left behind? Or had I just made things worse? As I pulled into my driveway, I knew one thing for sure. There was no going back now. I had set something in motion, and I had no idea where it was going to take me. After that night with Olivia, I felt a strange kind of relief. It wasn't the kind of relief you feel when you've done something good. It was more like finally dropping a weight you've been carrying for too long. I didn't feel proud of myself. I didn't even feel satisfied. But I did feel like I had taken back some kind of control. It was messy, sure, but after everything Alice had put me through, I felt like I deserved at least this small victory. But deep down, I knew that sleeping with Olivia hadn't solved anything. In fact, it had probably made everything worse. There was no future with Olivia. That much was clear. It wasn't about her, not really. It was about Alice. It had always been about Alice. And now, after years of her games, her manipulation, her refusal to ever own up to her actions, I knew that I had to end it once and for all. I couldn't keep living in this toxic mess of lies and provocation. So I made a decision. I was going to tell her the truth, about Olivia, about everything. No more games. No more lies. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen where Alice sat, sipping her coffee like nothing had happened. The usual tension hung in the air, but this time, it felt different. There was an end in sight, and I was ready for it. We need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though my heart was pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure how she was going to react, but I knew it was going to be ugly. She glanced up at me, her eyes narrowing. What now? I took a deep breath, bracing myself. I slept with Olivia. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Alice froze, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. Her eyes went wide, and I could see the disbelief wash over her. She looked at me like she didn't understand what I had just said, like the words didn't make sense. Then, slowly, her expression shifted. Disbelief turned to shock, and then to rage. You what? She finally spat, her voice trembling with fury. I slept with Olivia. I repeated, my voice steady. After everything you've done, after all the games, I did it. Alice stood up so quickly that her chair tipped over behind her, crashing to the floor. Her face was flushed, her hands shaking. You disgusting, pathetic piece of shit. You slept with her? My stepsister? The one person I've always hated? I could see the rage building in her, the way her hands clenched into fists as if she wanted to hit me. You really are the lowest, Jason. The absolute lowest. I stayed calm, watching her unravel in front of me. I had expected this reaction, but seeing it unfold was still unsettling. Alice was furious, beyond furious, and it was all directed at me. But this time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like the bad guy. I just felt done. You did this as revenge, didn't you? She screamed, her voice cracking. You slept with her just to get back at me. How could you be so cruel? I didn't deny it. Yes, it was revenge, Alice. I'm not proud of it, but after everything you've put me through, I couldn't take it anymore. Her eyes flashed with pure hatred. You bastard, she hissed. How could you sink so low? After all I've put up with, your obsession with Olivia, your constant attention to her. I should have known you'd betray me like this. Now I was angry. My obsession with Olivia? Are you kidding me? You're the one who turned our marriage into a circus. You're the one who's been playing games, trying to make me jealous, pushing me away. You were the one who started seeing Brent. I tried to fix things, Alice. I tried everything. But you never cared. You never wanted to work on us. You just wanted to be right. You destroyed this marriage long before I ever touched Olivia." For a moment, Alice looked stunned. It was as if the reality of the situation had finally hit her. But then she switched gears, her voice growing defensive. "I only started seeing Brent because of how you treated me. You made me feel like nothing, Jason. Like I was just second place in your life, behind Olivia." "That's bullshit," I snapped. "You pushed me into this. You've been manipulating me for years, trying to make me feel guilty, using every trick in the book to control me. You wanted me to break, Alice. Well, congratulations, you finally got what you wanted." Her face contorted with fury, and for a split second, I thought she might actually hit me. But instead, she took a step back, her voice trembling with rage. "You're a monster, Jason. A complete monster. I'm filing for divorce." I nodded, feeling oddly calm in the face of her outburst. "Fine, do it. But don't you dare try to blame this all on me. You played your part in this mess too." Alice glared at me, her chest heaving as she tried to catch her breath. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the betrayal cutting deep. But I also saw something else, realization. Deep down, she knew she had pushed me to this point. She had provoked me, tested me, and now she was reaping what she had sown. With one final look of disgust, she turned and stormed out of the kitchen, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the house, but this time, it didn't bother me. I felt free. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. Alice filed for divorce a week later. She tried one last time to blame everything on me, to paint herself as the victim. But this time, I didn't care. Let her tell herself whatever she needed to. I knew the truth, and so did she. Her relationship with Olivia was shattered beyond repair. Not only had she lost me, but she had lost her stepsister too. And in the end, she had no one to blame but herself. As for me, I started to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy, and I won't lie. There were moments when I questioned everything, when I wondered if I had gone too far with Olivia. But in the end, I knew it was the right decision. It wasn't about the sex. It was about taking control, about putting an end to Alice's manipulations once and for all. I'm not proud of everything that happened, but I'm not ashamed either. I did what I had to do to survive, to get out of a marriage that had been toxic for years. Now, I'm focused on the future. I'm free from the lies, the jealousy, and the constant battles. I've got a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. And next time, when I get into a relationship, it'll be with someone who respects me, someone who's interested in trust, not manipulation. The past is behind me, and now I'm finally ready to move on.